The following is a Productions original series.
Hello and welcome to Walk and Roll Live. I'm Doug Vincent, and Addie Rich is here as well, our co-host. The podcast is dedicated to amplifying the voices of the disability community. I'm a polio survivor, and Addie is...
a kid with CP. I've decided that I'm going to be a kid.
You could be a kid, absolutely.
Okay.
So, you are back home now.
I'm back in Atlanta.
Correct.
Back in ATL. It's so hot.
Yeah, it was
hot.
God,
it's 92 degrees right now.
Woohoo!
It was 89 degrees at 7 p.m. last night. I don't think it got under 70. Like, oh my goodness.
Which the Central Coast of California, where you were having fun, that was but like a hot day there is like 80 maybe.
80, yeah, like hanging at 78. And in San Luis, we have a lot of the winds, so it's not even hot. Like if it's windy, it's not hot. It's just annoying that it's so windy. But I'm like, okay, send me back right now.
You're all ready to go back.
Yeah, for the weather.
So recap us a little bit. You were there for, to visit family.
I was there to visit family.
But you also had an event.
Yes. So my nephew turned 16. My best friend's twins graduated high school. And my sister sold her house. So we were doing lots of things in 3 weeks and, on the move, constantly on the move. So now it's like, okay, we were just trying to get to that point. Like when you're planning your summer, you're like, okay, I just need to get to here to help with this or do this or that. So now I'm a little bit stumped because all the chaotic events have passed. And I'm like, okay, what's next? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Like I know I'm supposed to go. Still
now you feel like you're forgetting something?
Well, yeah, because I'm like...
There or here?
I have to go see other friends? No. Just like what's next in the summer because it's June and I feel like I had other
Not
things
even
on the
officially.
calendar.
Well, no, maybe today is officially summer or
it's
unless...
It's June 23rd.
Yeah. So, but then officially summer starts the summer solstice is like June 21st, 2nd, somewhere in there.
I don't know, but tell Mother Nature to turn down
science. Dang science.
Yeah,
But I get you.
I'm just, as soon as it gets so damn hot and you don't want to be outside, it's summer. I don't care what day it is.
Yeah. And you extended your stay.
I did by a week.
Yeah.
Because my sister had to finish packing her house and it closed basically the Monday after I was already supposed to be gone. And my nephew was at camp and stuff, and I could see that I would be useful. So I stayed another week and we knocked out putting our house.
Which is nice with the way you work, right? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I said we basically pulled the house apart, put it on a pod, got it. But having to do that with one less set of hands would have been difficult, It was really nice for me because I feel like she's helped me so much in life, so many times. She runs into bat for me or whatever. And so this was a time where I felt useful. And I was like, I can do this. I can be a helpful sister and I can be here on purpose. And that was nice.
Very nice. So she's starting a whole new chapter in her life. Well, you have to keep us up to date on that.
I will.
Yeah.
How was your week?
It was good. There was the dinners at the dinner with the car show folks. Went to a restaurant that I think it's a chain. There's 3 or 4 of these different restaurants. I've been before. It was pretty good. It's Mexican, but kind of a different, not your traditional Mexican. I don't know if it's a little more southwestern. It's called Calaveras.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was all right. It was all right. So that was fun with them, and then the dog handlers went to dinner with them at Chili's. Do you have a Chili's in your area?
Chili's, yeah, we do.
And I hadn't been to Chili's in forever. I was the host, which the host is just the person who picks,
you pick Chili's.
The restaurant.
You're like, I feel like Chili's.
Yeah. So it was good, and the gal was just really, the top percentile in waitresses. She was very good, very sweet, very attentive, and she came back. And of course, there's at least 2-3 veterans in that group. And so she came back and said, I applied the veterans discount to everybody in the group. I'm like, Okay.
Aw.
Yeah, so it's very sweet. Had that, and then the IEDC conference was this last Tuesday. Had some great speakers talking about the ADA, kind of giving us a little short seminar on that. The 504, which is the federal law about accessibility, right?
Yes.
And rights, and then disaster preparedness for those with a disability. And she went and did a deep dive. It was down to, accommodations at shelters and
Amazing.
And what your rights are, what you can expect to have, and all of those things. So that was very informative. And then a gal that was just funny in her whole presentation, but all great information. A gal from Calvet that gave a presentation, and I've got her information. I'm going to get her and Betty, who is with the other group that I volunteer with, Volunteers for Veterans Together, because I think we could kind of help each other out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Matchmaker.
And I didn't realize we had this in the works, but we have a new representative at Rolling Start that's going to deal with primarily, if not only, veterans. And she was at the conference, and then she came out to the pantry on Thursday. Great, Jasmine. Thumbs up. She comes out to just check it out, with me. I had told her all about it. And we put her to work, and now I think she's going to be doing some days ahead. She's going to be doing some haircuts for the veterans and different things like that. Yeah, she seems like she's really awesome. So, so a good week and another busy week. Looks like it's unfolding this week. I'll tell you about it next week. And I also want to say hi to Tammy, Phil, Terry, Suzette, and Dan, Arlene, everybody that listens and, has some nice comments for us. So
hi, guys.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And
Thank you.
Thank you to Ryan Cheveria, who was on last week. Great story. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you like these stories, and we can grow the community and keep telling them. We'd appreciate that. Coming up today, an interview with Robert Soto, who I met through, Triumph and just the different organizations and Live to Roll. Our paths have crossed a few times, and the more I talk to him, it's like, are we like living a parallel life? You know?
Exactly. What is that called? Sliding doors?
Yes.
Listening to you two, I was like, whoa.
And there was even more that came up in the interview that I'm like, I don't even think I said anything. There was a few that came up that I'm like, okay, I'm not going to mention. Hey, that's another one. That's another one.
So we video call this interview, and if you saw my face change a few times, I was like,
What? Good guy. So we'll talk to him today, and then we'll convene back here afterwards. All right. I was got to take a quick break for Aguiar Professional Training. Thank them for their support as well. We'll be right back.
At Aguiar Professional Training, we know that your greatest asset is your team. Investing in their development, knowledge, and happiness is essential for your business's success and growth. To achieve new heights, it's important to hire intelligent, talented individuals and empower them to excel in their areas of strength and passion. Aguiar is committed to transforming your employees into happier, more productive, and fulfilled individuals. When your team thrives, your business prospers. Wise leaders understand that providing team members with opportunities to shine in their strengths unlocks untapped potential. Elevate your team with Aguiar Professional Training and witness the growth of your business.
You're listening to Walk and Roll Live Disability Stories.
Tuesday, new day, new guest. Let's wait. Tuesday, new day, new guest. Let's say we've told a lot of stories. There's been so many glories. We've seen incredible changes, each with beautiful ranges. Duck, yeah, attitude. It's another Tuesday, and we're going to do it. Tell another disability story, a walk and roll life story. Everyone's listening, always very soothing.
All right, let's get back to it here on Walk and Roll Live. Our guest today, I met him a year or so ago, and I've been trying to get him on probably all that time. But finally, the stars aligned, our schedules met, and all of that. So we've got him on today. Let's start with a self-introduction.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Robert Soto. I'm a T12 spinal cord injury from a motorcycle racing accident 51 years ago. That's when I was young and immortal, resilient, and so that was my life-changing moment. A spinal cord injury from a motorcycle accident, dirt bike.
Well, welcome to Walk and Roll Live.
Thanks for having me. Nice opportunity.
I met you through Live to Roll and I think Triumph and a number of different places, but it was interesting because as soon as I started talking to Robert, there was like all these kind of parallels, so to speak, that him and I have. He also, you walked for years, right, with crutches and
crutches and braces. And braces,
yeah, and then transitioned to a wheelchair, which I did over years. How long did your transition take, do you think?
For me, from my terms of the walking or the wheelchair?
Yeah, walking to wheelchair.
Walking to wheelchair, okay.
Yeah.
I see, because I used the wheelchair all along. I'm 71 years old. I've been in the chair since 19, 20 years old. So I always had the chair, but when I had the braces on, I expected myself to really kind of use them for walking. So I would do that. Then once the braces were off, when I was younger, I could stand up, but I was a lot more a lot braver then, So anyway, so I did the crutches probably up until about a couple of years ago. I was still standing and doing a few steps here and there, but my shoulders just couldn't take with the crutches. The hyperextension of the shoulders and things.
Yep.
So that I started using the chair a little bit more, and then I knew that was going to happen one day. I knew that transition was going to be there. So I made the transition to get rid of my regular truck and got a van at that time. So it all kind of came into play, and it sure has made my life a lot easier. My shoulders still get sore here and there. I'll give them a little bit of a break, but kind of pace myself when I'm going to do certain things with the shoulders. So I know that if I'm doing something, I'm out all day, pushing all around and all that, I know the following day is going to be sore.
Yeah. You can just count on it. Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's the whole story. It's so familiar. I walked exclusively up until, I got to be in my mid 40s probably. And I could still get around, I could still, you've been to the LA County Fair. I'm sure an LA County Fair is one of the biggest fairs in the country, just sheer size, but I could walk all over that thing. But I found out in my mid 40s that I paid for it. It took me 2 and 3 days to recuperate. Right. Yeah. So me and a friend went one time. It just kind of as a joke. And I'm sure I've told the story. So sorry if you've heard it before, but to the listeners, but we get there and they've got all the baby strollers out and all the scooters lined up right at the entrance where you can rent them, and I don't know if I said it or my buddy said it. He says, you ought to rent one of those. You ought to rent one of those, kind of one of those things. And so I did. And it was like just the angels sang. I got to the end of the day and the next day I felt great. And I got, it was so much easier getting around, probably still, was able to see more. So I thought I should get a wheel. And my brother had already transitioned into a wheelchair years before. He was always heavier and got to the point because he was very athletic. My brother was very athletic. So he played baseball and football and all that with his buddies. So he couldn't keep braces on. He was always breaking his braces. So, so he kind of went to a wheelchair fairly early. And so I kind of had that mentor, if you will. So I went and got one and just was using it to, to do things like go to the fair, go to Disneyland, those kinds of things. Yeah. And then the body really starts to tell you, you need to go more and more and more. And you kind of
vanity use, right?
And vanity. Yeah. I was just going to say that fights it.
Vanity use. We know it's like it's trying to help me get to the place that I'm okay with everyday use, but I'm still stuck in vanity use world where I'm like, no, I'm not going to break.
I'm going in kicking and screaming. Sure. But like you say, once you kind of just let it go and get the van, and it's changed my life too.
What a difference, like I said, it just was I think I was also losing my confidence because of my strength. I was losing strength. I've been losing strength just because I age and I'm not real active, but I do enough I consider my daily activities, pushing around in the chair, that's my exercise.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to go beyond. I don't. It's not an excuse, but I don't want to go beyond that because I want my shoulders to be okay. Because most of the time when you start working them out, and especially if I have overuse,
Yeah.
already with the rotators and biceps and things like that. So my arms are there when I need them, and it doesn't really stop me, but I just kind of take things a little easier. Use a power assist more often now, and and I'm fine. And, the van and that power assist made a difference.
Yeah, changes the quality of your
Power
life.
assist.
Absolutely.
Doug and his power assist.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm a believer in those. I wish they would have had it maybe 20 years ago. And maybe a little bit better off.
That's it right there. You get to this age and you don't know how much longer it's really going to last, right? So you want to don't overdo it, but still you want to be able to get out and do things and be active. And I think as it's hard when you go to all the things that we go to, the different adaptive sports events. There's some coming up this weekend. I love to go. I love to see everybody, but I don't really participate in too many of the things because, my shoulders are just shot, and I mean, I could do the littlest things, at a thing like that. And, I'm paying for it for a day or two, you know how it is. So hopefully people will not look at me as like.
I'm glad I'm not on that island alone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm still on the no, I'm going to do it and I don't care.
which, and Robert, you could probably speak to this too. I see all these young kids out there doing all these things, all these sports things, and I want to say, easy. You got your shoulders when you get older. But then I just zip it, and say, live your life, have fun while you can. And I would have never listened to somebody telling me, right?
Exactly. Just some of these crazy transfers that you can do when you're younger, but in the long run, it kind of whittles away at the shoulders too.
Yeah.
For me, I think I just didn't know the proper balance. I should have been using the chair 50-50 or maybe however percentage. But for me, I did a little different than you did. Whenever I had long distances, it'd be the chair, no big deal. But when I was working, every day and everywhere else I went, I'd always be on the crutches. And they served their function, especially while I was working and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I probably should have just had more of a balance. Use that chair, bring that chair into my life a little bit more. Wasn't any reason why I didn't. It's just that I was fine walking and dealing with the crutches and braces.
Right. Well, you made the decision.
I could muscle it up. If I couldn't sit up real easy, I could muscle up. So I'm fine.
That's something I've talked to my brother about. It's as you get older, it's more about technique than the muscle because you can overcome things with muscles. Yeah. But now you have to concentrate on technique.
Sure. Definitely. And my transfers are. They're not there. It's a struggle for me nowadays. And I can do it. I could do it and just not as smooth.
Yeah. It's hard to believe as you look back, the things that you did. Do you feel that you're like, I can't believe I used to do that.
Well, yeah. All the time. Because it's all the time when I try to do something that I used to be so easy. Now it's taking me a half hour to do it. I go, I used to do this all the time. But that's the aging piece to the body and ego. Really, it's the wheelchair for me nowadays. The wheelchair's no big deal. The wheelchair's never been a problem. It just hasn't seen a problem.
Yeah.
Now for me, the aging aspect, and I know we've talked about this several times, but it's the aging aspect that's the difference for me. It's almost like starting all over. When you first went from being able-bodied and you got hurt, for me, the trauma and all that stuff. There's a transition there.
Yeah.
So now, and then there's different little transitions, but now the other main transition for me is the aging piece and aging with a disability, because there's a lot of stuff that you look back on that you did do, and that's what made it easier because you were able to do them. You had a technique down and all that. Now with me getting older, I have some technique, but I don't have the strength.
Yeah.
Or the endurance.
Yeah.
I can go pretty much, but I beat myself up sometimes too. So I'm a little more conscious of that. But I'm not the healthiest. I don't really watch my diet and stuff. go up and down on that, but I'm hanging in there and I'm trying,
Yeah. Well, you talk about the transition, and it's part physical and part mental.
Yeah.
And they both play a kind of a key role, because like you were alluding to, you feel good in the chair. And that's what really kind of helped me get through the transition to doing it full time, is that is I just had lost that sense of agility that I had on the crutches, and I felt that again in the wheelchair. That's where you feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay with things now. Like I say, I'm a person I like since the pandemic, it seems like, but I like being at home. I have my house, and during the pandemic, I piddled around with it. So now I like being home a lot. I still get out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do that thing, but I do get enjoyment on being home here. It's nice and quiet. I can do what I need to. And I'm a movie. I love going to the movies or watching TV and stuff, like that. So that's really my distractions for a lot of stuff too. Over the years, it's always been television, but most recently in the years since the pandemic, I mean, I'm very, very confident and comfortable being home.
Yeah, content.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So we probably got it done, did this differently than we normally do. We kind of start at the beginning and tell the story through, but I'm going to circle back, just so get an idea of what we were like as a young man. I know you were injured, 20?
19. It was 19. a few weeks before my 20th birthday.
Yeah. So what was your life about then?
Okay. Well, back then it was, I was 19, graduated a little earlier from high school because of just the units and
Jesus, Robert, stop it. I did too. I went a semester early. I graduated. I just thought, this is not real.
Are you like, what are those twins? Like,
I know, I'm beginning to wonder.
Buddy,
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. What's going on?
I know there are a lot of parallels for sure. Right. But anyway, so I grew up, hardworking blue collar family. My dad worked a lot, and we had what we wanted and things like that. So, I was into some sports, but I've always been into whatever was motorcycles, car racing, drags, and stuff like that. Yeah. So as I got older, I really got into motorcycle. We were in a neighborhood that everyone had dirt bikes. So, you're part of the thing there. So, and just started riding motorcycles. But I started out in the era in the 60s, where there were mini bikes. They had lawnmower motors. It was a true mini bike. Now they're like little motorcycles. So I did that and, kind of got the bug and all that. And as I got older, got better motorcycles, faster motorcycles. And I was into cars, a lot of cars and trucks. I just loved all that. And so, it was fun. And so, like I said, motorcycle racing just happened to be part of it was my hobby. Yeah. I never looked at going professional. It was a hobby. Because when I got hurt, I was already going to college, kind of mapping things out or trying to get my goals and lifelong plan in place. But, I was still young, I was still trying to decide what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But, and then family was real tight. I had two sisters and myself. And so it was, and my parents never said don't race. They let us pretty much do what we liked, and just as long as we were safe and smart about things. So anyway, so I got into motorcycles, and little by little I was racing and stuff like that from, as a kid. And so it was just one of those Sundays where I got hurt. Like I said, I was still doing a lot of growing up before that. I was a teenager, and I just some good decisions, mostly bad ones, but I didn't get in any trouble. I was responsibly irresponsible.
Yeah, there we go.
So, so then when the accident came around, and it was just one of those things. I had a couple other friends before me that ended up in wheelchairs, but we'd see him, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, this, and really didn't pay much mind to it because.
Were there injuries from motorcycle racing?
He was in the chair, and it was when he went to the same hospital I did. Yeah. We went to the same high school, same city, and all that stuff. And we knew each other. We're the best of friends, but we were friends. So so that was my first exposure there. But also in the sport of dirt biking and stuff like that, it's kind of one of those things that it's not out of the question. It's not out of your mind. You know, you don't want to think about it all the time, but you know, it's the nature of the sport. There's a big possibility, big percentages of injury, you know? So, yeah, so I did that and had a lot of family support and friend support, and kind of helped me make the transition there. I had my depression, but you know what? I don't think I wasn't. I mean, it was hard to make the transition. I mean, in terms of, you know, when you're alone or just certain things but I was already on my way to working to accept it. I don't know. That wasn't my game. I'm going to accept this. It was just, I can just tell the direction I was going. I had a father that was very supportive, very strong man. And, you know, he made sure we did our therapy. That's what it was, because he was right there with me. Because he goes, "Oh, this, you're going to do this. And when I get home, we're doing this," you know. So it was all, I mean, that all was the focus there. I mean, you know, when you first get hurt, it's all about walking, because the closest thing to being the norm there was you being your able-bodied, and, you know, in those few seconds it changed. Yeah. So I missed that part, and so that's why I wanted to get up on crutches and braces. But, you know, if you ask me that now, if all these years later, what would you rather have, bowel bladder or walking? I'll take the bowel and bladder, because the walking thing, I mean, like I said, I got through that. Yeah, there's some barriers here and there, but, you know, it depends on how I place myself too, you know, where I put my place, or, you know, where I'm going to go. Making sure things are, you know, I do have to do a little extra planning. Yeah. Stuff. But it's kind of been that way my whole injury.
I was just going to ask, your injury came from motorcycle, right? Racing.
Yeah.
And I asked you to send me some pictures, and you had before and after picture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Of you riding.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the one picture is the before, obviously, is when me racing and stuff. And then I think, you know, another lap or two later or whatever it was, you know, it wasn't, because there was like 6 races or something like that. And I forget which one that was, but yeah, it was towards the end of the day. And it was just, you know, one of those things. Yeah. So it's fairly unique, I would imagine, where somebody has a picture of almost the moment, right? We discussed that a little bit, because those are, I mean, I have some pictures, but, you know, my early years, I don't have many pictures because you had to have a camera. Someone had to carry a camera with them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, there's no cell phones. Yeah. So there's no picture of me really in the hospital or anything like that. So that is really one of the most important pictures I have, is the time where I went, my life's changed. There's 2 pictures there that are the dimension of where my life changed.
Yeah.
The marker of the before and after.
Yeah. The end of one and the benchmark of the new one.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And 50 years ago, there wasn't the organizations that there are now, and the peer support and all that, right?
Well, when I got out of the hospital, this was in 74, and we were in a new area. My parents had a house built, so we had moved and all that. And there was an organization called CAPH, California Association for the Physically Handicapped. And it was like an organization that, you know, worked with the cities and stuff like that. And they wanted me, I don't know how they found out or anything, but they knew that there was a younger man in the city, new injury. You know, they wanted me very much part of that, so I can talk about it and draw younger people, but my age and all that, to get them back in, to get them to the community. And, you know, of course, I didn't want. I said, no. I look back now, I go, I wish I would have. Yeah. Because I don't know if it even exists, but they were trying to do good. They were doing, 50 years ago, what some organizations are still doing today. Yeah. They're trying to do today as well. So, so I kind of turned that down and kind of went my own way and just, you know.
And I get that at that age. Yeah. Especially when you're like still trying to wrap your head around it. Right.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm no spokesperson for this place I didn't want to be, so don't put me on the seat. You know, like, speak forever.
Well, you know, and the thing is, you know, your attitude, you know, it's life. You're going through life, and it's a bummer that this happened and all that. But luckily, you know, the way my mindset was and the way I was raised, you know, I didn't look at negative. I looked at, you know, what I can do, and, you know, that's why it was so important for me to do the walking thing, because I set my mind out to do it. I go, I'm going to do this, even though I wasn't fooling anybody. I was on crutches and braces. You know, I wasn't smooth little gait and walk and stuff like that. But, it didn't matter because I was getting around and it was eliminating barriers for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can relate. I've had, and this was just not too many years ago. Never anybody had ever, I guess, accused me of this, but they accused me of like passing, like I was passing as an able-bodied person. This came out of a conversation that I was having with somebody and just relating my experience and and they didn't use the word, but in so many words, that's what they were like accusing me of, trying to not be disabled. How do I not be disabled walking around on braces and crutches?
And it doesn't come easy getting on those crutches and braces, how long it takes for you to be comfortable on them, to have the endurance and stuff. It was one of the hardest things I'd done in my life.
Yeah.
Was that. It was like going from trying to take a half a step, to when they start measuring the distance finally and all that stuff, it's an accomplishment that you feel that does make you feel good because you fought hard for that.
And all of that was before my memory. I started a year old. And so I'm sure it was. But I still remember some of that. I went to a school that had physical therapy and occupational therapy within the school, so that was part of your school day. You'd go and learn math and writing and all that, and then you had to go in for physical therapy and
stretch your legs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And physical. I remember not liking physical therapy.
Oh my gosh.
OT was okay. Kind of enjoyed OT. That was all right.
Ooh, I hated physical therapy. I did not freaking stand it. And then when I had to redo it when I was, older and had my back surgery, then I super hated it and it ate my summer and
right.
It's demanding. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? I know how getting through the pain and all that stuff kind of lays the foundation for any of the other pain in your life. But it's being responsible to your disability.
Yeah, and to your future self. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can go on with life, and there is life after paralysis, stuff like that. It's what you make it. The whole positive thing, but you got to just keep moving in that direction. I don't really, and I know a lot of people when you talk to them, especially when you see new patients and. They see me all these years, it might be a reality check for them. I don't know if it's positive or negative when they see somebody like me being in a chair that long and they think, I'll, another year or so, I'll be up and about, so I don't.
Which is very common, right? It is very common for people who are newly injured. I'm going to work really hard at this. I'm going to walk again. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know if I shatter people's bubble or not, but it's just a reality. My point is that, I can be happy. I've had a good life. I could always do better, and stuff like that. But that was something that I kept trying. And so, sure, things can get better if you really put your mind to it and keep that positive attitude. Because I know when we talk to patients and stuff like that, that's the one thing I try to push a lot because we all know, you don't want negative. You're not going to attract with negative. You're going to attract with positive. So, and like I said, I got through it. Sometimes, I still have my ups and downs. There's no doubt about it. When you wake up in the morning, feel like you just got that little cloud around you. So, I sulk and complain and talk to myself and all that. But then I get out of it and start whistling and getting myself happy and I'm okay.
That's just being a human. Like we all show up with a cloud some days and say, screw this. I got to go back to bed to get up on the other side. That's just humanity. But it can be more complicated by how our physical body feels and the effort it takes to push to the bright side of the street because your body's exhausted, but your brain has to work.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Yeah. Do you feel like that was part of that transition to, accepting it and thriving?
I think for the most part, I think I accepted it. I don't know if it's 100%, but I accepted the first few years, first couple of years, easy, maybe the first year, because I was going out with my friends again, none of my friends left. They were still all around, So then when I moved away from my parents' house, we got a place down in the beach area where we all grew up. I didn't grow up in the beach city itself, but we were so close. We used to be there all the time, I'm proud to call myself a survivor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I don't remember. There's just memories, some I don't have, but I kept moving forward. I worked. I went to work right away. Went to finish my school right away. Did what I could. Got into the job market, and I wanted to make money. I wanted to get back on life. I did wheelchair sports a little bit at the beginning, which I loved. And it shows you what you can do. It's just not sit there and do all that. So yeah, it all kind of went pretty well. I look back now, but like I said, it's just the aging now.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
And that's,
I don't mean to keep whining about it, but I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised how different it gets again. You went how hard it was when you first made a transfer when I got hurt and all that stuff. Well, now it's getting that way again.
Going back full circle.
I'm making that circle. I go, now here I go again. But, just a little more experience. And I try to develop different techniques, whatever makes it easy, or don't put myself in that position. I don't know. There's a lot that's changed. Mentally, like you mentioned earlier, mentally, physically, and it's a lot. And as you get older, what I'm finding out, so I never really think anything more about being able-bodied. I mean, that's out of my mind now.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah. Well, because now I'm looking back, I go, God, I can't believe I used to do that. And then when I was young, after my injury, because just that resilience, and I look back now, I go, geez. But the thing is, for me, I feel and know I'm a survivor. So that keeps me going a long way, and that helps me to stay on that positive track, because I could have gave up a long time ago.
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
that's one thing I kind of worry about sometimes. When we're telling these stories, I don't want it to sound like that we're whining about our situation, because I don't feel like anybody feels that way that I've had on. I think it's just a opportunity to tell this whole story. I mean, I don't think I ever get an opportunity to tell my story, and the people that I have on, I don't think anybody ever gets the opportunity. With your family knows the whole story, so you don't have to tell it to them. But there are friends in your life, they don't know any of this. They just know you.
They just know that you can't. They just think you can't walk.
Yeah.
Or the way you're sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
They don't know all the other things.
The other things that go along with it.
Yeah. But they're just, the scheduling, the programs I got to do in the morning before we got to meet somewhere. They go, we'll be there at 7:00. They don't know what time I'm getting up to get my
to get there by 7:00.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about retirement is I don't have to do too many 7:00 things anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look forward to it. I start at 6:30 every morning, so I will look forward to it.
It'll come. So what did you end up doing for a living?
I worked. There was a grocery chain here in Southern California. It was Lucky Stores. So I worked at a trucking company way before that. Got all my experience in the logistics and transportation world. So that business went out of business, sold, and all that stuff. So I got a job at Lucky's in the operations department. With dealing with transportation, the trucks and stuff.
Oh, amazing.
So I started there in 87 or 88 or something like that, and worked there till I retired in 2018 or 2017. I forget when. But so I was a logistics superintendent, transportation trucking superintendent. It's like a manager, so to speak. And so I did that. And you figure I was in the company for 32 years when I retired.
Yeah.
And I worked 10 years before that. So so I did that and stayed with it all along. I went corporate in, 95. Once I was down here in the division here. So I got transferred to corporate, and the companies were doing all kinds of different things then back in the day there. So I got transferred to Utah, and which was a big thing for me because I never really been out of California. I mean, I'm a Cali born and raised here, beaches, desert, just, so I got the job there, and it was kind of me proving something too. I was using my crutches, and that's where being on the crutches and braces really helped because everything was upstairs, and stairs weren't a problem for me at that age. It's no big deal. Didn't matter. I could get up. I mean, it's not.
Yep.
So, I did that, and kind of tested me out a little bit, I'm sure. But so yeah, I proved myself a little bit, and that was my start there with that industry. But while I when I had a chance, though, at one time, I could have went a completely different direction in my life. I was when I was one of my degrees in communications, broadcasting and stuff like that. So I did an internship and then ended up getting a job at ABC Talk Radio back in, this was 80s, I guess, mid 80s or early 80s, and it was the days of Michael Jackson, the interviewer, and Ken and Bob on the ABC Talk Radio.
Yeah.
They had, so I got to do all that, started producing that, and was going along pretty good with it, and then kind of went a different direction. I was always working in the transportation trucking industry, so that's what I really, really knew. What I really, really loved was the broadcasting aspect of it. Yeah. So, but I needed to make a living, and that's like along with where I was at, and I made a good living on it. I mean, all my experiences I've learned prior to that in the trucking companies, and since I was a little kid and all that, it all came to fruition, and it helped me stand out. So it kind of came a thing for me climbing up the ladder in that company, because they were going through so many mergers and companies buying each other out. So I think I was there the 32 years. I think every few years there was a merger, somebody buying somebody out or whatever.
Right.
So, but anyway, I did that and went corporate in Utah in mid 90s. And that was the first, because I'm not really a snow person. I mean, I'll deal with it. I mean, I'll deal with the rain, but I'm not a rain person.
See, snow and crutches, no fun.
Yes. So that was a challenge, a journey there, growing up with ice and snow, and a lot of places weren't all accessible. So you're just kind of finding out and picking your spots that you're going to go where it's going to be conducive to what you want to do. Yeah. So anyway, so I did all that, came back, got transferred back here, did my thing for a few more years, and finally decided my shoulders were always hurting. I wouldn't take away from work. I wouldn't stay home because it's just my work ethic, So, and then finally, finally I tweaked my shoulder really bad where I go, I can't go back. It hurt that much where so I took my whole process of the disability and all that stuff and finally retired. And that's 9 years now.
Good for you. So I gotta ask, because it's our show. It's all about the disability community. But did you ever feel like you ran into any barriers in your career related?
Well, if I wasn't on crutches, I don't know how it would have been, because everything was upstairs. You have these big old giant warehouses, and offices are all upstairs.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I did what I had to do. Whatever. On job interviews or whatever, when I was first looking for that, I got that job, I was going to different places, and they're all upstairs. So the fact there is that was the first challenge. But I don't know if it made a difference to them knowing how much harder it is for someone just running up the stairs than me, holding onto the rail.
You never brought it up, right? So they never brought it up.
Yeah.
Like, I was
there. Yeah. They wanted me there. I was there at that time. So anyway, it came in handy. The walking part served its purpose for me when I needed it.
Yeah.
Now that I'm, older now, I'm taking life a little easier. Yeah, it'd be nice to be up on the crutches a little bit more, but wheelchair's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you're retired. Now you've kind of come back to broadcasting a little bit. Now I know you're part of the Live to Roll family. You have one of the weekly shows.
Yeah, and that's fun. We have a program there. There's 4 of us on the shows that are co-hosts, and it's aging with a disability, and we call it Rolling Over the Hill. And so we just talk about we talk about different things, and really what the aspect of the premise of the show is, we're not just wanting old people just come on here and take old guys and all that. I mean, we're the old guys, but because if someone's been in a chair 5 years to 10 years, they're aging as they go in there, and it's going to change things. Throughout the years, you're going to be adjusting something the way you do things. So, and it's trying to just a little empowering, enlightening, and letting them know what's going on. And yes, we're older, but we're still here and we're still, active, and share things like that, and also to enforce sense of community, because I didn't have that. I mean, was my choice. And so now that I got back involved in the community, it's important. I had community when I first got hurt a couple of years. Then after that, I went on my own, going back to school, finishing school, going to work and all that. So I kind of got disconnected. A couple of the friends that I did have that were in the rehab with me that, used to keep in contact with, passed away in an accident and just things like that. So they were it. And I went on, all my able-bodied friends and all that. So again, a lot of them are real helpful and all that. I mean, there's no shortage of if I needed help or anything like that. But they didn't know the whole story. But yeah, so everything went fine with that. And it's just, you do, for me, it's just not a lot of choice. You just do what you got to do, whatever it takes, and you'll figure it out somehow. And is there some things that you can't? Well, yeah, but I'm not going to be shattered by it. I mean, it's not like, you just roll with it.
Yes, absolutely.
And now you're paying it forward with your podcast to help. Struggles.
And like I said, that's so much fun with that, and it kills a lot of time for me because I do enjoy it, and I'm involved with a lot of the support groups. We do an inpatient here locally here at Casa Colina, and it's funny because we're doing mentoring and just talking. Kind of, you really do. That emotion that you have to see somebody going through just starting all over again, and their parents are there, and they're in the, I know how it was just trying to figure out what you got to do here and what you got to do there and all that. So, so I find it here, if I can, have my experience and affect somebody in a positive manner, I'm good with that. I'm not trying to be there as an old man say, because you know what, in terms of the community, just like I encourage you, hey, when you leave here, stay in contact. You don't have to be every day in a group or calling somebody, but just stay in connection with the community here and there. Yeah. But a lot of them say, oh yeah, we understand. But they get on that life path, and you get that direction, and they're younger and they're still growing. So, you see a lot of people that say, yeah, but it doesn't. But it is really important. And for me, I'm finding that out in my later years.
That's me too. And I think, Addie, we've talked about this. Yeah. We just kind of went on with our lives, and nothing wrong with that. Like you say, I mean, I went to a school for disabled kids up until I was in fifth grade. Fifth grade, I started, and they mainstreamed me. But it was a great foundation. I can't imagine it happening any other way. But still, you're growing up, and then you start to think about as you get in the high school and the latter years of high school. Well, I'm going to want to work. I'm going to want to be independent. I'm going to want to drive. I'm not going to live at home. I got a life I want to live. So you set about working on all of that, but at some point, I came back to the community, and that's, if anything, I've learned from that. And I want to tell people, get connected with the community.
It is. I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
Somehow, like I said, you don't have to be going everywhere and doing everything that's out there, but have that community. When you have questions or you need to, ask somebody, how do you do this or whatever? You got people around you.
Yeah. And even in addition,
it's a big social thing. I'm like Doug. I go to these events. Yeah. I'm mostly networking, if they want to say that word or whatever. It's a socialization. I'm good just checking it out, being around people that understand everything that you have to do, or that you're going through, or what you're doing there, and all that stuff. Yeah. It's like when you have lunch with somebody, you can talk about anything. Yeah. Just like on some of these support groups.
It's not like you sit around and talk about transferring techniques. You're talking about baseball or whatever it is. Yeah.
And if there's something that you're not familiar with, there's somebody in our community that knows.
There's, and you'll relate to this. There's just something unspoken when you get together with your community. You couldn't put it into words. Nobody can put it into words, but you know it when you feel it. You know, even if you're not talking about those specific things.
Yeah.
But, you're around people that get you and you get them.
Yeah. Yeah. With no explanation.
Make jokes that nobody else gets.
Yeah.
Or you can say you're being totally inappropriate.
Can say some type of joke that only certain people can say. And that's got to be somebody that's a disability.
Exactly.
You know?
So you do a lot of work with Triumph, right? The Triumph Foundation.
Yeah, I do. I stay involved with Triumph. Triumph, I think, is a great organization. They really, are one of the foundations to be acquainted with if you're have an injury here in Southern California or wherever. But they've done a lot, and I watched them just the few years that I've been kind of familiar with them, how much they've grown, because Andrew's got that momentum. He does the right thing. Yeah, I'm sure it's not easy for him. It's like we don't see all the other stuff that he's got to go through. But Triumph Foundation is number one on my list.
Yeah, he's got a lot of energy, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Now, is there anybody else you work with? Any other organizations?
Like you said, we work with Live to Roll and do the podcast there and just kind of try to help out there and get the word out. Before, not too long ago, I was at Rancho Los Amigos. I was a peer mentor in their No Barriers program. So I did that. I liked that a lot. But then the drive for me was just getting a little too, and plus I love volunteering and giving back and doing what I can, but I don't want to be doing it where it becomes like it's seeming like a job to me. I don't want. Then it's going to lose that. Because I mean, if I wanted to work still, I would have stayed working.
I'd still be working. Exactly.
Yeah. So, but it's so I want to give back as much as I can, but also want to not lose sight of why I retired, just to take things easy and enjoy my time.
Amen. So, any particular goals that you have? Any aspirations in the twilight here?
Well, the goals that I've set out initially, I've been fortunate enough to accomplish a lot of that. So I'm happy with that. That makes me pat myself on the back there. But I think right now, just trying to get it into my head, but I have no willpower. Just to try to start again, continue to eat better, eat healthier. I'm not a big healthy eater. I mean, but if I can just control my portions, I'm a comfort food. I love comfort food, and and I do know the difference when I'm feeling better, when I have lost a few pounds here and there, but it's hard to keep them off because
everything tastes so good.
I'm a weakling when it comes to snacks.
Yeah. I got a sweet tooth too.
Yeah. But so I really would like to focus a little bit more on my health, and I do that. But going to doctors, we keep an eye on things. Certain tests I take all the time. So if there isn't anything going on, it'll be available in information pretty quickly. I feel okay. I'm tired lots of times, but who isn't?
Yeah,
I know a lot of
who isn't ready for
you get
a
to
nap?
this age,
Exactly.
I wake up, I'm ready for a nap.
Well, that's what I know. I go, God, I'm up an hour. I wake up. Oh yeah. Then I stop and sit down and watch the news a little bit, and I'm getting tired. I go, it is funny, but that's one of my things. I'm tired, but I don't mind relaxing, and I can take my naps. I have no guilt on any of that.
We've earned it, man. We've earned it.
Yeah.
I know.
Quiet, you guys.
I don't want to jinx myself, but I can't believe I haven't fallen out of the chair.
Oh man, knock on wood.
Because I've done this, watch the TV at all. And my head falls back.
I know. See, I fall forward. I
do both. I do both.
Yeah.
So then I get into the bed. I go, well, just because I have one of the ones that are all positioning stuff. So I get in there and then I'll take a nap. Either I'll take a nap and sleep too long or struggle. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you wake up, you go, well, it was only supposed to be like 20 minutes. It's like an hour or two later, I
set an alarm now. I'll put it on.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I'll go because I'm almost falling out of the chair. I'm like, I'm going to go take a nap, and I'll get in bed. I'll set the alarm for 30 minutes. I'll lay on the bed and I'll go, God, now I don't feel like I'm going to beep, beep, beep. I can't even get the thought out. I don't think I'm going to be able to go to sleep. Beep, beep. What the hell happened?
Yeah. I didn't use an alarm at all, but I think I do need to start using one.
Yeah. Well, it's nice because, you don't think a 30-minute nap would be that big a difference, but man, you really feel refreshed, you know. But sometimes if you sleep too long, a nap too long, then you're like kind of groggy and
Yeah.
So, my little tip there. All righty. Well, we appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us. We'll look for you on Live to Roll and, rolling around different events here in Southern California.
Yeah, I'm there. I try to get to them.
Yeah. Are you going to City of Angels, their event this weekend, or?
No, I'm going to go Saturday. We're going to do Push to the Pier.
Oh, I'm going to go to that too. I think I'm going to try to make both in the same day.
I was going to go because El Camino College over there in Torrance, it should be a good event. But like I said, I'm just planning on doing Saturday and see how that goes. But I enjoy
taking a nap on the other day.
yeah. But that Push to the Pier, that event is. I like that. You're right there at the ocean. Just you work how much you want to work.
Yeah. I went last time, and that was. I was so excited that it was like a monthly event. I thought it was like an annual event. I'm like, you do this every month? Yeah. Beautiful day. The beach there is beautiful. Yeah. All right, brother. We'll let you go. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Nice meeting you. Bye-bye.
Addie Rich never set out to be a voice for others. She became one by living her truth. As a woman with a disability, she's navigated life's twists with resilience, heart, and humor. Now, as co-host of Walk and Roll Live, Addie brings compassion, insight, and a spark that lights up every conversation. Together with Doug, she helps create a space where real stories are heard, valued, and celebrated. This is community. This is Walk and Roll Live. From the UGYAR Professional Training Studios, you're listening to Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories.
Robert Soto on this week's episode of Walk and Roll Live. What'd you think?
I love his story and his attitude because even though he touches on like having a dark day, he doesn't ever say like, poor me. And even though you guys are talking about getting older, and that's a scary proposition because like for me, you and I talk about that a lot, like fighting the chair or like just feeling weird about feeling older or stamina. Like I always thought, so when I had my back surgery, they said that I would have like, it basically negated my stamina with whatever they did. And so I've always like had a really hard time with, I get tired far faster than my muscles actually couldn't do it. Right. So you guys are talking about that. And I'm like, well, shit, I have no stamina. What's going to happen? Is there a negative stamina? Like, but I love the attitude that's, that you guys are like, you'll get through it. It'll be fine. I'm like, yay. Okay. You guys lead the way because I sometimes need to hear it. I
will tell you, when you get to the point where, you won't, you'll have even less stamina, I guess. You'll get to a point where life will slow down. You won't be working. You're using up all your stamina. Why can't I say that word all of a sudden? Stamina.
I don't know.
But, stamina. And just getting through your day.
Yeah.
And so, once you stop working and you relax and you can take a break whenever you want, all of that. Yeah. So it's, don't
Hear
be
that,
afraid.
Universe?
Don't
I
be
have
afraid.
to be able to retire.
Yes, exactly. But we touched on it. I don't want to make it sound like we're whining all the time on this podcast, but we're not. It's observational, and everybody can relate. If you're, we got another 70-year-old person in here that doesn't have quote unquote a disability. Getting that old is almost a disability in itself.
Oh, for sure.
For some things in your life, yeah.
Aging is a journey, and it's accentuated by disability. So, I mean, it's interesting for me to sit here and feel like, okay, well, I'm 46, and then you guys are in the older bracket, but then I see like younger kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm old to them. Like, I always felt like the young one, but like going to the high school graduation or talking to my nephew who's 16, and he's like, yeah, you guys are ancient. And I'm like, screw you. But, you're just.
But you remember being that age, and a 30-year-old felt ancient.
Oh, I know. Well, you think your mom is like 40 for for all your life, and then you pass 40, and you're like, dude, she was not 40. Like, you know what I mean? 40 wasn't bad.
I can remember there was, as a kid, going to a camp. And I remember going to a camp where there was a kid driving a bus. Well, I say kid now. It was a man to me.
Yeah.
And there were times when, if my parents only knew, he'd sit us on his lap and let us drive the bus.
Yeah.
Steer the bus, And not until I got older did I realize, well, those weren't men. Those were boys. They were probably 18 or 19, 20-year-olds,
Yeah.
And at the time, they felt like grown men to me,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
Good times. But yeah, Robert's a good guy. So we'll look forward to seeing him at Push to the Pier this Saturday morning in Long Beach. And then also this weekend is Angel City Games, and that is at El Camino College in Torrance. Check it all out on our events page on the website, walkandrolllive.com. And then also Possibilities grants are open. So if you need a grant, you're in Southern California, and, they do grants for sports equipment, educational purposes, adaptive changes in your home, all kinds of things. So, yeah, if you're...
Don't be shy. Apply.
If you think you might qualify, go check it out.
Hey, we just rhymed a bunch. Anyway, we're cool over here.
And if you're looking for resources, yes, we do have a resources page. Added a few things in this past week. I can't remember what they are, but anything you need, check it out there. And if you don't find it there, let us know and we'll hunt it down. There's resources for everything. walkandrolllive.com/resources. Next week, we have the Family Friends Network.
Yes.
Family Resources Network.
Yes.
Yes. And so we'll tell you all about them.
But they're friendly too, so that could work.
Yes.
They're very friendly and helpful. So
very nice.
Yes, but we look forward to talking to them.
So thank you for listening. Thank you for carving out a bit of your day and listening to Walk and Roll Live. I'm your host, Doug Vincent, along with Addie Rich from the Aguiar Professional Training Studios. This has been Walk and Roll Live. Disability Stories, Life Limitless.